Rita Kakati-Shah, your host for The Uma Show. Welcome to your one-stop journey for feeling empowered. We're a platform for change. We build confidence. We are your voice. We want you to be bold, be you, be Uma. Today, we're exploring women who can do it all. And I'm so excited to be joined by Goddess of Go-Getting, Rita Kakati-Taank, who's joining us from London. And she is a Senior Counsel at Suntory Beverage Food, advising on IP and commercial legal matters affecting the business. Ruby is also a mother of 3 and wife to Sanjay, with whom she loves to learn and dance Cuban salsa. Ruby is passionate about equality and inclusion matters and loves to see more diverse representation and perspective in all areas of life. It makes things more interesting. So welcome, Ruby. Thank you for joining us today.
Hello.
Lovely to see you. So talk to us a little bit about your heritage, your childhood, and how you grew up.
Yes, well, your viewers will be, we'll put our surnames together, and it won't be a surprise to hear that although we're not related, we are family friends. I'm a Kakati as well. My dad is also a doctor like Rita's. And my dad is also came to the UK in the 70s, and my dad worked across the UK like throughout my early childhood, and we settled in a small town stroke village on the outskirts of Liverpool when I was about 5.
But yeah, we had some very similar backgrounds there. I love that. And I still remember the story that our fathers told together, that they actually started writing on banana leaves when they started their education. No. So they were picking that up. How fun was that? So speaking of education, it's such an important thing, especially in, you know, South Asian heritage backgrounds, especially from Assamese backgrounds that we both come from. So can you talk to us a little bit about your journey?
Yes, so being Assamese, it was drilled into us how important education is. And also I wanted to mention earlier, throughout my childhood, although I had an amazing childhood and I was lucky to go to India practically every year to visit family, I always had a feeling of otherness. I don't know if you experienced this, Rita, growing up in a very white area in the 80s. And yeah, I regularly used to be called Paki, which is a racial slur. So I never really felt that I could be myself. I also used to get teased for having a mandir, so having Hindu gods in my home, and people couldn't believe that we ate curry practically every night. And from very early on, my dad and mum as well used to say, you have to do better than your friends, because if it's between you and them and you have exactly the same grades, they will be the ones that get chosen. So that was kind of, and I don't say that to my daughters, but that was the messaging that I received growing up in the 80s and 90s, how important education was. My dad really wanted me to be a doctor as well, even though I hate vomit and hospitals, because of the stability. So from my dad's point of view, being a doctor gave you career stability, and other careers perhaps didn't, when it was so kind of racialized in those days. And my dad also had his fair share of discrimination, being a doctor in the 70s, 80s, 90s. So yeah, the messaging to us growing up was, you have to ace your exams, otherwise you're not going to get a job.
Yeah, no, I love how you share that, because it's almost like a copy and paste in terms of my upbringing as well. Very similar. And yes, you do hear a lot of those words and the slurs, and it was really education, same kind of messaging that we were taught. If you don't get that, that's your foundation, and you have to have a really strong foundation to be anything in life, and that's what steadied you forward. So my parents also try to get me to follow in the footsteps of medicine, but obviously I didn't go there either. So I love how you share that. And obviously you did end up in the legal profession. You are a lawyer by background. And in general, the legal profession has a reputation actually for not being the most flexible for women, especially trying to balance their families with their careers as well. What do you think can be changed going forward?
I think it is a lot better now, actually, and especially after the pandemic, it's accepted, and most of the law firms in London are hybrid, flexible working now. But when I was training and when I was a junior, you didn't see women, and particularly women of colour, at the top as partners or managers in law firms. And I do believe that the saying of what you can't see, you can't be. And yeah, it does make you think what kind of messaging is going out to the younger ones if all you can see at the top are white, middle-aged male figures. But I qualified in 2009. And I trained in 2007, and lots has changed in that relatively short period of time. But it's super important to have that diversity and representation, so the younger females, particularly females of colour, can see that it is possible for them too. But I didn't see that when I was a junior.
Got it. Yeah, no, I understand that. And also, like, you know, because obviously you're in the UK, and law is practiced in some ways, and as you've mentioned, things are getting better, especially in that spectrum, but there are certain occasions where it's still not. And I think the pandemic, to your point, has really opened people's eyes on what things can be done. You don't always have to see the person in front of you to access the product of work and what they're actually submitting as well. And this has really opened up lots of people's eyes. So on that note, you do balance a lot, and you are a mother of 3 beautiful girls, and you do manage to work full-time as well. Tell us a little bit about your girls, how old they are, and how do you manage to balance everything?
I manage just about by the skin of my teeth. So my girls are 2, 4, 4 and 8. And yeah, it is hard work, but I would say it takes a village and good childcare to be able to work, dedicate time to work, and also be present with my girls. And I'm lucky that I have a very present partner as well, by force. There's no other option. But yeah, that all those factors are important from my experience.
Yeah, and I think you've totally hit the nail on the head there, because it's that, to get that balance, you know, you do have to call upon your tribe, your support network. Yeah. You know, it doesn't matter who you are, there are people out there, but you have to ask for it. You know, I certainly know when I became a mother for the first time, it's so hard to almost acknowledge and think, you know what, I think I need a bit of help with something. But once you get there, you build your routine, and absolutely that supportive partner, that supportive parent, friend, somebody that you can call upon to help with pickups or whatever it is, really makes a difference. And on the note of that, actually, McKinsey found that 1 in 4 women, specifically during the pandemic, left their jobs due to burnout, citing unequal sharing of household responsibilities and family responsibilities as really being the driving forces for that decision. What do you think is the secret sauce for sharing responsibilities with a partner, whether it's your spouse or another support network?
I mean, I need some of that secret sauce, but from my experience, it's, as I said, it's having a partnership, and it might not be 50-50 at all times. It's definitely not in our household. Sometimes it's 80-20, 60-40 in either direction. But having that, having a support network is vital to be able to get through just the trials and tribulations of bringing up small humans. Also, I think it's super important to be present with your kids and dedicate time for yourself as well. So I think all those aspects together definitely help. But from my perspective, it is having my support network, so my in-laws, my parents, and the caregivers. Also a partner, because we're outnumbered. I've got 3 and there's 2 adults. So it's having a partner on the same page and committed.
No, I agree with you. And I think you actually summed it up really well. You know, you have to be flexible in that. It's not always 50-50. It can be 80-20, 60-40. Yeah. But also you have to have clear direction on your goals. When you want somebody to help you, what do you want them to help you with? Be specific as well, because I think that sometimes things can get pressurized too, when you want someone to help and you find, oh, actually that hasn't been done, but you haven't made it clear enough to them for them to understand exactly what it is you wanted help with. So I think, setting out the specifics early, getting everyone on the same page, being organized, almost having an internal family responsibility schedule can really, really help, as you said, as well.
I need to download the shared calendar on that point, but exactly the communication.
Totally, yeah. And this can all be part of your challenges that you go through in life, I guess, but challenges are a part of life, and it's really how we deal with them that really sets us apart as women in leadership, but also strengthens who we are. Could you share a personal, professional challenge and how you overcame it?
Yes, so the most recent personal professional challenge was over the pandemic last year. It was super kind of unknown territory. My husband, who owns his own business, had a major challenge at his end. So his factory went on fire spontaneously just 2 weeks before the pandemic. And then, the pandemic hit, all the schools and nurseries shut. It was all a very new way of working back in 2020 as well. So I was at home alone with the kids at that point, 1, 3, and 7, trying to portray a professional and slick demeanor while conducting meetings and being present in meetings and advising in meetings, whilst having a 3 and a 1-year-old who are still very dependent at home, and my husband being out trying to firefight and organise alternative premises during a pandemic when everything else was closed. And he manufactures food, so as a key worker he was out every day, so that was super challenging, and at that point we weren't having the conversations that we're having now of how difficult it is to manage work and home life and school life and homeschooling. Those conversations weren't happening, so I still felt very isolated, and no one in my team at that point had kids, so could share the just the pain. So I was in front of the screen, very could say with it, whilst my kids were upstairs in the cot watching Netflix. So Netflix was my childminder at that point, whilst also screaming. So it was super challenging. And what I found got better and helped me get through it is having the honest conversations with people in my boss and other managers and other people at work, and sharing experiences. And at that point, a few months later, people were sharing their own challenges. And this is my favorite saying from that point: everyone's in a different boat but in the same stormy sea, which is so true, because there were loads of issues going on. We're still seeing the impacts, mental health impacts now from last year, but managing childhood and career and marital life when my husband was also having his own issues, and kind of arguing over whose day was worse and who if could never swap with the other one. So that was super challenging, but we're still together and we're still in one piece, and I still have my job. So that's success in my book.
You survived the storm. Oh my gosh.
Survived the storm.
I think, to your point, especially when you are a mum working full time and you've got things going on and you are in an environment where nobody else has kids or has exactly that same scenario, it's almost like, oh, what do I share exactly? Because you don't want to feel guilty about doing that. You think, will they even understand? But to your point, and this is another thing that came about the pandemic, is that everybody started to share a little bit more. Everyone started to let loose, and you think, wow, I've got this going on, but wow, they've got that going on, or so and so. And you realize that in everyone else's worlds, they also have just as, if not more, different sort of challenges to deal with as well. And I think that's part of it, that we can all learn from, whether it's work or at home, just communicating more.
Exactly.
What you feel comfortable communicating, but within that, communicating more, because if somebody doesn't know what's going on, they can't empathize with you, and then they can't help, and they don't understand what's going on. So I think that's all part of it. Yeah. So
it's just sharing your vulnerabilities as well in the workplace. if you're just seeing someone as an accountant or a lawyer or marketing person and that's it, and they're just two-dimensional, how do you build relationships? I found actually sharing my experiences actually got me closer to my colleagues and gives me more of a connection, where possibly they might not see me that way as, you know, the lawyer that reviews contracts and helps them negotiate deals. So sharing, everyone has, as you said, everyone has their own challenges, and especially of the pandemic, lots and lots of issues going on. I mean, mine pales in comparison, but just being able to share definitely helps.
I think that's it, you know, because it's actually brought people together in a way, you know, things like being on Zoom. You know, I'd have my kids and, you know, again, Netflix or some device was a lifesaver at times, but then you see someone else's household where there'd be like a little pet or something, or there'd be literally a plumbing leak in the background, literally throwing water on everything at the same time. You think, wow, other people have got things to worry about too, but you would never hear or see about that. Or someone walks into the office and says, oh yeah, I had a plumbing issue, that's why I'm late. You'd be like, oh, whatever, without seeing it. And then you think, oh my gosh, this is real, or something's happening. So it really, really brings people together to actually understand that, I think. So thanks for sharing all that. Before we let you go, what advice would you give to any young girls or women wanting to follow in your footsteps?
So back to my point earlier about feeling other, and you don't have to be a woman of colour to have had these feelings before. Lots of my white friends have also felt very other in the mainstream scenarios. But if I was to speak to my 15-year-old self, 20-year-old self, it would be embrace your otherness, embrace your uniqueness. You have a lot of value to add, and what you say is important to the world. I mean, at that point, I just wanted to fit in. I didn't want to draw out my unique qualities or my differences. It was all about being part of the mold and talking a certain way, acting a certain way. But actually now realise, and being in my profession for so many years, I've lost count, I think otherness and uniqueness is so important, and really embrace it and go for it. Be Uma.
I love that. On that note, thank you for sharing that.
By the way.
Thank you so much, Ruby, for sharing your incredible journey with us today. And thank you
for having me.
Absolutely. And thank you for viewers and joining us on this empowerment journey. We want you all to embrace your inner goddess of go-getting. We want you to be bold, be you, be Uma.